Have you ever noticed how the loudest voices in the room often reveal the weakest minds? We've all been there, someone trying to provoke us, raising their tone, throwing words like weapons, hoping to pull us into a fight we never asked for. In those moments, your chest tightens, your pulse quickens, and a part of you aches to respond, to prove them wrong, to protect your pride. But what if the real power wasn't in the comeback, but in the pause? Picture yourself standing still, unshaken, while the storm rages in front of you. No shouting, no frantic defense, just a steady presence that unsettles more than any insult ever could. People start to notice. They wonder, why aren't you reacting? What strength do you carry that allows such calm? Without lifting a finger, the balance of power shifts. The one who demanded the spotlight now looks small, while your silence speaks louder than words. This is the art of quiet dominance, a way of turning presence into influence, of protecting your peace while commanding respect. In the minutes ahead, let's explore how silence, used with intention, can become your sharpest strategy. Stay with me, because what you'll discover may change how you hold yourself the next time someone tries to shake your ground. 1. The power of silence. Have you ever noticed how silence can make a room shift? Someone throws insults, pokes at your patience, hoping you'll snap, because that is where their power lives, in your reaction. Toxic people thrive on noise and urgency. They prod and provoke because they believe that if they can drag you into chaos, they've already won. But silence denies them the oxygen they crave. Without your response, they are forced into the most uncomfortable battlefield imaginable, their own mind. Suddenly they begin to wonder, why isn't he reacting? What does she know that I don't? And in that anxious guessing, they unravel faster than any sharp comeback could ever accomplish. The Stoics understood this truth long before psychology gave it language. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. To the Stoic, silence is not weakness, nor is it passivity. It is self-command. It is the refusal to be ruled by impulse. When you hold your tongue in the face of provocation, you're declaring to the world, I choose my battles. I will not waste my energy on the unworthy. That restraint is not emptiness. It is quiet confidence. It radiates the kind of dignity that comes only from knowing your worth without feeling the need to defend it at every turn. I remember a story of a high-level executive respected for his calm presence. During a tense board meeting, a rival tried to humiliate him, twisting facts, tossing out sharp comments meant to wound. All eyes turned to him, expecting retaliation, but instead of engaging, he simply leaned back in his chair, met his rival's gaze for a brief moment, and returned to his notes. Not a word. The silence hung heavy. His rival, unsettled, pushed harder, spoke faster, louder, until he seemed desperate. By the end of the meeting, it was clear who had lost credibility. The executive's silence had done what no argument could. It revealed the true fool in the room. This is the essence of self-mastery. Silence, when rooted in strength, becomes a weapon sharper than any insult. It dismantles manipulation, exposes insecurity, and shields your energy from being stolen by those unworthy of it. The Stoics teach us that life is too short to be spent justifying ourselves to those committed to misunderstanding us. Far more powerful is the man or woman who can stand calm while others shout, who can remain steady while others unravel. That kind of composure is not just a tactic, it is a way of life. And once you taste the freedom it brings, you realize that silence is not retreat. It is command. This is how you transform provocation into proof of your strength. And once you understand it, you're ready to see how another subtle weapon, patience, turns silence from a shield into a sword. 2. Strength in stillness. Have you ever felt that burning urge to defend yourself the moment someone twists your words or questions your worth? That pull inside your chest, that rush of heat in your face, the need to set the record straight. It feels almost irresistible. And yet, the Stoics would tell us that true strength is found in resisting that impulse. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Silence, when chosen deliberately, is not weakness. It is the refusal to be ruled by someone else's game. It is the decision to let others waste their energy while you conserve yours. Manipulators depend on reaction. Their entire playbook is built on 3 steps: provoke you, control the story, and wear you down with endless back and forth. They know that the moment you start arguing, explaining, or defending, you've already surrendered control. But silence disrupts this cycle. It robs them of the first step, which means the rest collapses with it. It's like pulling the battery out of a machine. The lights may flicker for a moment, but soon the power is gone. That is why silence feels like such a threat to them. They want certainty. They want to read your emotions and weaponize them. And when you give them nothing, they are left to wrestle with their own anxiety. I once spoke with a woman who had a co-worker constantly undermining her in front of their boss. The comments were sly, sarcastic, meant to make her look incompetent. Her first instinct was to clap back, to prove herself. But instead, she tried something different. The next time it happened, she looked calmly at him, said nothing, and carried on with her report as if his words were nothing more than dust in the air. Within 2 weeks, the attacks stopped. Why? Because without her reaction, there was no drama to feed on. The silence had turned the spotlight back on him, exposing him as petty rather than powerful. That is the inner power of silence. It is not the absence of words, but the presence of discipline. It is self-worth in motion, saying, "I know who I am, and I don't need your approval to confirm it." It is the strength to delay the battle so you can win the war. Just as a master poker player holds their expression while others waste energy guessing, you too can hold steady while others unravel. And when you do, you discover that silence doesn't mean you're losing. It means you've taken control of the pace, the energy, and ultimately the outcome. A manipulator without control is like a snake without venom. They can hiss, but they can't harm you. And once you understand this, you're ready to see how patience sharpens silence into a weapon of its own. 3. The shield of unreadable energy. Have you ever noticed how easily people give themselves away? A twitch of the mouth when they're nervous, a sudden shift in their voice when they're lying, or the flood of words when they're desperate to be believed. In a world where emotions are broadcast constantly, through words, gestures, even online posts, the ability to remain unreadable is a rare kind of power. Unreadable energy isn't about being cold or shutting down who you are. It's about mastering the art of revealing only what you choose when it serves your purpose. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." And there is a freedom in being untouchable to those who would exploit your every reaction. Toxic people thrive on emotional tells. They scan your face, your tone, your posture, searching for weaknesses. A raised eyebrow reveals doubt. A clenched jaw signals anger. A pause hints at uncertainty. These cues become a roadmap they can use against you. But when you cultivate unreadable energy, you erase that map entirely. You place them in a fog where every assumption could be wrong, where their confidence begins to erode because they can't predict your next move. And in that uncertainty, you hold the advantage. I once knew an executive who embodied this perfectly. During tense negotiations, even when the deal was crumbling, his face stayed calm, his voice even, his body language steady. No matter what the other side tried, provocation, bluffing, false deadlines, he gave them nothing. They could not read whether he was preparing to concede, counter, or walk away. And that unreadable presence unsettled them so deeply that they often overplayed their hand, exposing their own desperation. His stillness did the talking, and in that silence, leverage shifted to him. Developing unreadable energy does not mean suppressing your humanity. It means anchoring yourself before the storm, choosing in advance the state of mind you will carry into the room. It means mastering your breath so that calm radiates from you even when pressure mounts. It means softening the reflex to overreact, letting your expressions remain subtle, intentional, never exaggerated. Most of all, it means holding the boundary between what the world deserves to know about you and what belongs only to yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When your worth is anchored in those thoughts rather than in how others perceive you, you no longer leak signals of insecurity. Unreadable energy protects you from those who seek control, but more than that, it repels them. Toxic people crave predictability, and when they cannot find it in you, they move on to easier prey. To them, your calm is like a wall of fog, frustrating, disorienting, and ultimately impenetrable. In sports, in business, in life, those who can act with precision while keeping their emotions concealed inevitably dominate the field. Because in the end, when you control what others can read from you, you also control how they can treat you. This is not about mystery for its own sake. It is about presence, discipline, and power. And once you master it, you'll find that many battles end before they even begin. From here, we move deeper into another weapon of quiet dominance: patience, the sword that cuts without striking. 4. The discipline of non-reaction. Have you ever felt the sting of wanting to clap back instantly, to defend yourself, to prove a point before the words against you could even settle in the air? In today's world, where quick replies and fiery comebacks are glorified, choosing not to react can feel almost unnatural. But the truth is, non-reaction is not weakness. It is one of the most disciplined choices you can make. Seneca once said, "He who angers you conquers you." And isn't that exactly the game manipulators try to play? They want your energy, your reaction, your fire, because that is their proof of control. When you respond with anger, defensiveness, or endless explanations, you've already entered their arena. You're playing by their rules, rules designed to exhaust you and chip away at your self-worth. But when you refuse to react, when you choose stillness over impulse, you deny them that victory. Attention is fuel, and whatever you feed grows. To stay silent, to stay calm, is to redirect that fuel back into yourself. Suddenly, the absence of your reaction becomes louder than any words you could have spoken. I once worked with a woman named Sarah, who knew this struggle well. In her office, a colleague would constantly undermine her. Sarcastic comments, eye rolls, subtle digs during meetings. At first, Sarah tried to fight back, defending herself at every turn, but it only encouraged more attacks. Then she tried something different. She answered with calm, brief statements, and sometimes with no response at all. Her face remained steady, her tone even, her presence unshaken. Within weeks, the colleague grew frustrated. The joy of seeing her rattled had vanished, and the attacks lost all their force. What once wounded her became powerless in the face of silence. Non-reaction is not about ignoring reality. It is about enforcing an invisible boundary that says, without words, you do not control me. You will not disturb my peace. And the remarkable thing is, these boundaries don't always need to be declared. They can be felt. The manipulator senses it, and sooner or later, they retreat. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, strength not through noise, but through presence. Non-reaction flows from deep self-worth. It means you no longer need to win every small skirmish because you are focused on winning the larger war of your life. And when you embody that, people notice. Your friends admire it. Your enemies fear it. Most importantly, you feel it within yourself. That is when you begin to shift from being ruled by emotion to mastering it. This mastery is not silence for its own sake. It is silence as command. And from here, the next step reveals how patience sharpens that silence into a weapon of lasting influence. 5. Patience as a weapon. Have you ever noticed how often we rush to defend ourselves, to react instantly as if speed alone could save us? Yet in reality, impatience is the very trap that gives our power away. If non-reaction is the shield, then patience is the sword. Patience is not passive waiting, it is the deliberate choice to let time fight on your behalf while your opponent burns through their own strength. Seneca once wrote, "How poor are they who have not patience? What wound did ever heal, but by degrees?" The Stoics understood that time reveals truth, and the one who can wait without losing composure will always outlast the one who acts in haste. Toxic people thrive on urgency. They push for quick replies, snap decisions, heated words. Why? Because speed breeds mistakes. But when you slow the game down, when you refuse to match their tempo, you take away their momentum. They expect an immediate snapback, but you give them stillness. They expect a frantic argument, but you vanish into calm. This frustrates them deeply because it forces them to sit in their own discomfort, something they spend their lives avoiding. I once knew a man named Michael, an executive accused falsely by a rival in his company. Instead of rushing to defend himself, he stayed quiet. He gathered facts, let the situation unfold, and allowed his rival to grow overconfident. The rival kept making louder, wilder accusations, exposing his own lack of credibility. When the moment finally came, Michael presented his case with calm evidence and precise words. The truth was undeniable, and his rival's credibility crumbled. Patience had done the heavy lifting. Patience is emotional intelligence in motion. It is not frozen passivity, it is quiet observation, watching patterns, learning timing, holding your energy until it can strike with maximum effect. Toxic people hate patience because it robs them of drama. Without your reaction, they overextend, expose their weakness, and destroy themselves. And the secret is this: patience flows from self-worth. When you no longer feel desperate to prove yourself right now, you can let time reveal what matters. You stop wasting energy on every provocation and conserve it for battles that define your legacy. Time is the great equalizer. It erodes lies, strengthens truth, and unmasks pretenders. When you embrace patience, your actions become precise, undeniable, and unforgettable. That is why patience, paired with non-reaction, makes you unstoppable. So if this resonates, write patience in the comments and subscribe to keep walking the Stoic path with us. Because next, we'll explore another subtle weapon of quiet dominance, how presence itself can command a room without a single word. 6. The weight of presence. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the atmosphere change before a single word was spoken? People notice presence long before they notice speech. It's a silent truth of human psychology. Your energy is felt, not just heard. And when that energy carries quiet confidence and unshakable self-worth, it has the power to shift dynamics in any space you enter. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Presence is the outward reflection of that inner dye. It is not about intimidation or arrogance, but about the calm alignment of body, mind, and spirit that says without words, "I know who I am." Toxic people rely on noise. They thrive on gossip, manipulation, arguments. Their power depends on drowning others in words. But presence bypasses all of that. It doesn't argue, it resonates. It reaches past logic into the emotional center of those around you, creating an impression that no rebuttal can erase. I once met a negotiator famed for sealing impossible deals. When he entered a room, he never rushed to shake hands or fill silence with small talk. He simply stood, eyes steady, posture grounded, breathing slow. By the time he finally spoke, his words didn't create authority. They confirmed the authority his presence had already established. This kind of presence becomes a shield. Manipulators hesitate because they sense, often without knowing why, that you cannot be easily swayed. They may test you, but your composure forces them to second-guess every move. Presence is inseparable from emotional intelligence. It allows you to recognize tension without absorbing it, to observe conflict without fueling it. That steadiness gives your presence weight, the kind of weight that anchors others when the world feels chaotic. True presence flows from self-worth. When you no longer crave validation, you stop oversharing, overreacting, or overcompensating. Your worth speaks before you do, commanding more respect than someone shouting for attention. A calm person with inner alignment can dominate a room more completely than one who clamors to be noticed. And presence, once cultivated, draws people and opportunities without you needing to chase them. To master presence is not to perform, it is to be authentic, aligned, deliberate in how you carry yourself. Slow your breath. Stand with dignity. Let your silence say what words never could. 'Cause when you own your space, you own the interaction. And when you own the interaction, you've already won before the first word is spoken. From here, let us look at how unreadable energy adds yet another layer to this quiet dominance. 7. Minimal words, maximum power. Have you ever noticed how, in a heated argument, the one who talks the most is usually the one losing control? Words spill out, tone rises, emotions leak, and with every extra sentence, they give away more of themselves than they realize. In a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, the one who speaks least often speaks loudest. This is the paradox of minimal words. The fewer you use, the greater their weight. Seneca once observed, "Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue." Every unnecessary word is a step you can stumble on. Toxic people thrive on your words. They want you to explain, to defend, to justify, because the more you speak, the more tools they have to twist against you. But when your words are rare and deliberate, you create uncertainty. Silence stretches, and in that space, others begin filling the gaps with their own assumptions. They reveal more than they intended, while you reveal nothing. This is psychological strategy at its sharpest, the ability to use the absence of noise as influence. I once witnessed a CEO in a high-stakes boardroom dispute. Two executives pressed him relentlessly for nearly 10 minutes, layering arguments and pressure, trying to corner him into a decision. When they finished, he leaned back calmly, looked them in the eye, and said, "No, this isn't aligned with our values. Next topic." 3 short sentences, no explanations, no justifications. The room fell silent. Their power evaporated in an instant. His restraint had carried more weight than their torrent of words. Minimal words are not about ignoring people. They are about filtering. They send a quiet message. "I will not be dragged into your storm." And that restraint only works when it flows from self-worth. When you know your value, you don't need to over-explain or beg for agreement. Your clarity becomes your authority. In Stoic practice, this is the discipline of economy, choosing what is essential and discarding what is not. 3 simple phrases carry immense power. I see. Acknowledgement without surrender. Noted. Recognition without entanglement. No, the most unshakable boundary in language. These phrases end battles before they begin, leaving manipulators frustrated because there is nothing left for them to twist. Minimal words, paired with quiet confidence, transform you into someone unshakable. You protect your energy, you command respect, and you slow the pace of every interaction until it bends to your rhythm. Words are like arrows. Choose them with care, release them with precision, and one is often all you need. And now we step into an even deeper layer of quiet dominance. How patience itself sharpens those words into weapons of timing. 8. The art of detachment. Have you ever felt the heavy pull to respond, to defend yourself, to prove your side of the story, even when you know deep down it won't change anything? That pull is the trap, and the antidote is strategic detachment. If minimal words are the sword, then detachment is the shield. It is not escape out of weakness. It is the deliberate act of stepping back because the game itself no longer deserves your energy. As the Stoics remind us, the wise man wastes nothing. Not his time, not his peace, not his presence. Detachment simply means cutting the cord between your spirit and someone else's chaos. When you detach, you starve toxic people of what they crave most, your reaction. Silence becomes a mirror they cannot bear to look into. With no arguments to twist, no emotions to exploit, no drama to escalate, they are forced to sit with themselves. And often, that's their greatest fear. Watch what happens when you don't take the bait. They'll send subtle messages, accidental calls, or try to reappear in your orbit, just to test if they still have access. But the quiet power of no reply is unshakable. It's not anger, not pettiness. It's clarity. The silent truth. You no longer have access to me. I recall a colleague who thrived on constant confrontation, always trying to drag others into disputes. One day, instead of engaging, a co-worker simply said, "I'll let you handle that," and walked away. No debate, no justification. The instigator was left alone with his own fire, and without fuel, it burned out. That is detachment in action, not running but removing the oxygen that keeps their game alive. Detachment is ultimately an expression of self-worth. You stop auditioning for roles in other people's chaos. You realize you don't owe your time or presence to anyone who seeks to drain it. And though it feels uncomfortable at first, that discomfort comes from ego, not wisdom. Truth does not need defending with noise. It stands on its own. Each time you resist the pull to re-enter the game, you strengthen your discipline. Strategic detachment dismantles manipulation at its root. It shifts the balance of power not through confrontation, but through absence. Toxic people stumble when left alone in silence, while you walk away free, building a life beyond their reach. And this leads us to another form of quiet dominance, the ability to anchor yourself so deeply in self-control that chaos itself bends around you. 9. Owning the room silently. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air shift before a single word was spoken? Some people carry that effect. It isn't noise or bravado that sets them apart. It's something quieter, deeper, a calm authority that commands respect without ever demanding it. This is owning the room without a word, the pinnacle of quiet dominance. True presence is not a performance, it is alignment. When your actions, values, and self-image move as one, there's no need to prove yourself. Others sense it. Your stillness speaks. Your body says, "I belong here," and no argument can touch it. Toxic people hate this. They thrive on insecurity, on pulling reactions from others. When you give them nothing, their weapons fall useless at their feet. There's a psychological truth here. In chaotic spaces, the calmest person becomes the leader. Think of a captain in a storm. If he panics, everyone else will. But if he stays steady, the crew will find strength in his steadiness. That is silent authority, the control of self so complete that it steadies everyone around you. The way to project this isn't complicated. It begins with posture, standing tall, shoulders loose, breathing steady. Your nervous system calms, and others feel it too. It continues with eye contact, not aggressive, not needy, but steady enough to say you're present. Then come the pauses. When you wait before you speak, you show that you value your words. And when you move deliberately, as if every gesture has weight. These micro-signals are what people read, far louder than speeches. I once saw a man in a heated boardroom exchange, accused and provoked in front of his peers. Everyone expected him to defend himself. Instead, he simply looked at his accuser, let a silence stretch, and redirected the meeting without a single defensive word. He didn't win by proving the other wrong. He won because his calm showed he could not be baited. The entire room saw where the real authority lay. Humans crave stability. In chaos, we gravitate toward the person who seems most anchored. This is why even toxic people feel the pull of a steady presence. They can't manipulate it. It exposes their own chaos too clearly. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the rock against which the waves break." A rock does not argue with the storm. It simply stands, and the waves exhaust themselves against it. That is presence. You don't need a boardroom to practice this. It might be at a family dinner where tensions rise and you become the quiet anchor. It might be in a circle of gossip where you respond with calm indifference instead of hostility. The point is not to show off. It is to remain unshaken, to never lose yourself to another's storm. Owning the room without a word is about mastering your inner state so fully that the world bends to your gravity. It is a quiet power toxic people cannot match. And when you no longer need to announce your worth, everyone feels it anyway. That is the moment you become untouchable. 10. Influence without intention. The paradox of quiet dominance is that you never set out to influence others, and yet you do. Not through force, not through chasing attention, but through the depth of your stillness. Influence in its truest form has never been about how many people hear you speak. It has always been about how many people are changed because of the way you live. This is the quiet revolution of self-mastery. At first, you guard your silence simply to survive, to shield your peace from the noise and manipulation of others. You learn to master your reactions so toxic people can no longer reach inside your mind. But with time, something subtle begins to happen. Others begin to notice. They see the way you hold steady under pressure, while those around you unravel. They see the way you refuse to be baited into petty conflict. They watch how you move with calm precision, and without even realizing it, they start to adjust their own behavior in your presence. This is the ripple effect of mastery. Your consistency creates a current. The colleague who once interrupted now waits before speaking. The friend who once gossiped now thinks twice. Even family members soften their tone without you ever demanding it. These are boundaries that require no announcement. Your presence enforces them more powerfully than any lecture could. Marcus Aurelius understood this when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." People crave certainty, and in uncertain times they instinctively follow the one who appears least shaken. Think of Aurelius himself during war, calm and deliberate even in crisis. Think of a surgeon in a crowded emergency room, unshaken as chaos swirls around. Or picture a family table where tempers flare and one person, steady and composed, anchors the entire room. Quiet dominance is leadership, without ever asking for the title. For toxic people, this is intolerable. Their entire strategy depends on provoking you, drawing you into reaction, twisting your energy until you collapse. When that fails, their mask slips. They lose their power because they cannot win against your composure. And when others witness this failure, the manipulator's image shatters too. That is when they retreat, not because you argued them into silence, but because your silence revealed their emptiness. The path forward is simple, but not easy. Lead by example, show calm rather than demand it. Speak less, and when you do, let your words weigh more than the noise around you. Stay consistent, for one reckless outburst can undo months of steadiness. And above all, be the anchor in moments of chaos. Nothing earns loyalty faster than the person who remains steady when all else trembles. I once knew a man who embodied this entirely. In business and in life, he never raised his voice. Deals crumbled, insults came, challenges stacked high, and still he remained grounded. At first, people misjudged him as detached, but with time, they saw what he truly was, the one person everyone could trust when everything was falling apart. His calm became his influence. His steadiness became respect. Authority grew around him not because he demanded it, but because others leaned on him without question. That is the legacy of Stoicism. It is not just philosophy, it is strategy. You do not dominate by conquering others. You influence by mastering yourself. And when you do, the weak find courage in your example, the strong respect your steadiness, and the toxic learn they can no longer reach you. At its peak, quiet dominance is the art of shaping the environment with nothing more than your presence. The takeaway is clear. When silence is backed by strength and calm, by true self-mastery, you stop playing the small games others set before you. You rise above the noise and enter a higher plane where influence flows to you naturally. And when you reach that place, you realize the greatest authority has nothing to do with control over others. It is the quiet power of being untouchable within yourself. If this message gave you strength, subscribe and keep walking the path of quiet power with us.